Greetings and welcome to Perspectives. Hey Kevin, how
Hey,
you
hey,
doing?
hey. How you doing, friend?
I'm great.
Good,
It's
good,
good
good.
to be back, and I guess we need to just tell people first of all how to tune in, since we're on Facebook Live as well as YouTube, and we have our page set up and
Yeah,
rolling. Yes.
rolling, rolling, rolling. So now, what we're going to discuss today, guys. Oh, by the way, hello, television family. I was speaking with Evelyn earlier today, and I said, I'm excited to do the radio show. She said, hey, this is not a radio show. We're on television. I said, ah, ha, ha. Yes, we are. So,
Or what
hello.
or whatever they call this medium.
Exactly, exactly. So we are excited that you guys, yes, we are excited that you guys tune in today for another hot episode of Perspectives. Today we're going to be talking about the Black Lives Matter movement, and we're going to delve into that, and then later on we're going to discuss Black fathers, of which I am one. So this should be interesting.
Absolutely. And we're looking forward to the discussion because right now, Black Lives Matter as a movement is really trending. But we want people to know that it's not just a trend, it is a movement.
It is a movement.
And Black men, as fathers, as friends, as brothers, are critical to our community. And in many cases, they get sidelined and denigrated, if not murdered, within our communities. And so we want to have a conversation.
Yes.
That's what Perspectives is all about. Being able to talk about the things that you think about, but don't talk about.
Right.
So here we go. Right now, we're going to have a video on how Black Lives Matter came into existence. And I think it'll be very informative, very informative. It is amazing
Amazing.
how a spark can start a forest fire.
A raging of forest fire. Now, as per the video, they went into a few things as to how it got started. It started, as you saw, with three young ladies who simply posted a hashtag, and this hashtag became not just a saying, if you will, but as Evelyn mentioned earlier, a movement. Now, those three ladies again are Alicia Garza, Patrice Cullors, and Opal Tometi. Now, this was again in response to the acquittal of George Zimmerman, who, for all intents and purposes, murdered a young man, Trayvon Martin.
Skittles and an Arizona iced tea
For Skittles and
became a
Arizona
lethal weapon, and so he lost his life.
Simply because George Zimmerman didn't think he needed to be where he was. So he followed that young gentleman, harassed that young gentleman. Because if anyone, have you heard the recording, Evelyn?
Several times.
Yes. So if you listen to that, you can hear Trayvon saying, "Why are you following me? Leave me alone." You can hear him saying that. Don't follow me.
And he's walking away. He's not accosting him. He's not trying to threaten him. He is trying to go on his merry way.
Yep. And George Zimmerman in court says that he used the Florida statute, the Stand Your Ground.
Yes, he did.
Saying that Trayvon Martin, he felt threatened by Trayvon Martin. How are you threatened by someone who's walking away from you?
Well, in the state of Florida, you can get out of your car and look at someone incorrectly and they can shoot and kill you because of Stand Your Ground. So, and the present governor has strengthened that law. Yes. He has added some additional things to that. That's why it's so important for us to pay attention to what not just the federal government, but what local and state governments are putting in place to what they're thinking is to offset the defund the police movement. And nobody wants to get rid of police officers. We understand the value of having law enforcement, but we also believe in the motto that law enforcement carries, which is what? To
protect and serve. Yes.
Protect and serve. And that serve part is like almost invisible in too many communities.
Too many.
And so we have the Black Lives Movement. And we just saw the sentencing for Chauvin. He got 22 and a half years. And I'm grateful that he got that. Although I thought, for me personally, he could have stayed there for eternity and it wouldn't have been long enough.
Exactly.
And the judge pointed out that the heinousness of his crime was in the fact that he had such a position of power and misused that power and abused that power, and how it reflected on the entire law enforcement community, not just on his action.
Right. And then you had all of his other compatriots who simply stood around and allowed
and watched.
And watched, and no one said or did anything. Now,
and those gentlemen are coming up for trial, I believe.
Fantastic.
Sometime, a few months from now.
Fantastic. Now, I was watching a clip. I don't know how many of you out there in TV land, or I should say medium land, are familiar with Judge Greg Mathis.
Oh, yeah.
But he had a clip where he was speaking about the sentencing that Chauvin received and how it was so minimal compared to what Black men have received for far less. He said in that clip, he said there was a Black man, I forget the young man's name, But he said this man received 100 years for simply shooting at the police. No one was hit. No one was harmed. He simply shot at them. Now, I presume he got those 100 years for what they will refer to as attempted murder. Chauvin committed actual murder and got not even a quarter of what that gentleman got for simply shooting in the direction of the police.
Absolutely.
It's those kinds of things that sparked these three young ladies to start this movement. And it's also, to me, and I'm pretty sure to you, Evelyn, too, because sometimes our minds are linked like we're Vulcans.
The mind meld.
Exactly. So I'm pretty sure your thinking is the same as mine, as in how it's totally preposterous how those three words, Black Lives Matter, incenses some people.
Well, it incenses them because to them, Black lives don't matter.
Exactly.
And they're ticked off because how dare you get in my face and tell me that Black lives do matter? Because in my world, you're just a hiccup. And so those are the kinds of things that when we are looking at this movement, that it is so important for us to understand that this is not just a dot in time.
Right.
This has been a continuous historical action on the part of a majority community to continue to keep Black people in particular under their foot, just like Chauvin physically put his knee on George's neck. The laws have been committing those same types of actions since the ending of slavery.
Right, and we spoke about that in our last taping, where we spoke about black codes, and
absolutely,
that's those laws. Now let me throw out a couple points as far as the Black Lives Matter movement. Since its beginning, it's yielded more than 40 chapters. Now you have, I guess, spanning the United States. So this has become so much more than anybody thought it would be. But
no doubt.
It is in my opinion, a very necessary machine. And I say machine because we need that type of thing. We need a machine to get rid of one other machine. And that is white supremacy and racial, it's so many things you could add to racial. It's just
intolerance, right, discrimination,
the whole racial disparity.
Absolutely.
We need a machine to get rid of those machines. And for me, it's almost a genius that was put into place. It was genius because it began as a hashtag. Just think, if this began as a hashtag, just to say, just to remind, having to remind people that Black lives matter too.
Well, in this country, we have moved into the world of technology. And right. So that simple hashtag traveled further in minutes than a newspaper article could have done in over weeks. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so what goes with that hashtag is all of the conversations that were created. Right. And all of the organized actions, the strategies that came about to help people understand the effect of the killing of Trayvon Martin and the endless list of names
Yes.
that we continue to call Breonna, so that we can remind people this is not an isolated incident. This is
Right.
an ongoing action from across the country. And the beauty of it is that the Black Lives Matter movement has taken over the world.
Right.
It's like the
Because,
civil rights movement.
because
Martin Luther King Jr.'s name is called across the world.
right. Right. And one thing we have to remember that I think some people sometimes fail to forget is that Black people are everywhere. So this Black Lives Matter movement in America is not simply isolated to America. This Black Lives Matter movement is for every Black, brown, or person of color, if you will, across the globe. Because, and again, as I said, it's maddening that we
Racism
even
doesn't
have,
have a country.
there it is, and it's maddening that we have to even say the words that Black Lives Matter, because they should. Because as humans, you would think you would matter, but then you have other humans, just like you said, who think of us as hiccups. Something that's an annoyance. Something that they want to get rid of. Something that they
Exactly.
want to eradicate.
Know
Uh,
your place.
know your place. One more little fact. As far as the Black Lives Matter, it's become an ideological and a political intervention in a world where Black lives are systematically, and intentionally targeted for demise. Now, mind you, I use the word demise because that is a true statement. They are not simply trying to sit us on the wayside. They are trying to eradicate us. Now
I
that is
fully agree with that.
and that's a permanent situation. That's not something that's temporary. We're not an annoyance that they want to be temporarily rid of. They want to be permanently rid of us. So
And I think it is an organized structure that is moving in that direction at various levels.
very
And if you look at some of the news articles, we saw we see incidents where, one was just yesterday. This young man killed 2 Black people in a community. He stole a moving van truck, wrecked it in this Black community, got out of the truck, passed several white people, and found, as he's going through the neighborhood with this weapon, and killed 2 residents. One man he killed in his yard, who was a retired police sergeant, and killed a Black woman who was retired Air Force military.
wow.
But in the process of doing this, he passed several white people that he brought no harm to, and in his truck they found all kinds of hate messages about Black people, and so his mission was to kill Black people.
Yeah.
And we see those types of incidents where people run their cars through a Black Lives Movement march with the intent of killing people. And so it's not just the mass instances that we have to be concerned with. It is also these individual incidents that are intent on killing our people and causing havoc in our communities, burning down our churches, those kinds of
businesses.
things.
Yeah, businesses.
Absolutely.
I recently heard that Morris Chestnut. I'm gonna jump back to our first taping as well, but Morris Chestnut is supposed to be coming up with I don't know if it's a documentary or a movie. It's one of the two about the Tulsa massacre.
Yes.
So
there are several documentaries out there now, and there is I think it's on Netflix on Tulsa.
Okay.
And these kinds of things have to stay in people's faces,
Right.
because we have the attention span of a gnat. And,
Right.
and so if you don't keep it in front of people, in the front of their mind, there's so many other things that will take it over.
Right. And that's why when the Black Lives Matter hashtag was created, it incensed a lot of people in the white community, because that was something that they really couldn't get away from, because it was something that stuck, it was something that became popular, and it was something that became widespread. And so they were hearing it everywhere, because, you know, all the time they're always trying to throw different things at us to make us forget what's going on right now, or to make us not
Distraction.
To distract us, yes, from what's
Absolutely.
going on right now. Now, another point of reference. I'm going to read something real quick, guys, if you just bear with me. The Black Lives Matter movement nationally in 2014, after the deaths of Michael Brown in Missouri and Eric Garner in New York, it grew nationally. And since then, it has established itself as a worldwide movement, particularly
Yes.
after the death of George Floyd at the hands of police in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And that's the Officer Chauvin that we were just speaking of, who received a minuscule 22 and a half years for what I consider first-degree murder, because I don't think he did that by accident. Because having your knee on someone's neck, you, as an officer or as just any thinking adult, you know it's going to cut off some form.
And he wasn't isolated. There were people pleading with him to stop.
Yes, to stop.
And he continued that action. He ignored the pleas to stop. He ignored this man saying, "I can't breathe." He ignored him asking for his mother. He ignored all of that. And he was handcuffed.
Hands in his pockets, yeah.
You know, so how is it possible that he is a threat?
Right. And looking back at the tape, you wonder if Chauvin's pulse even spiked at all, because he seems
I don't wonder
so
that. Because I figure that he doesn't see the humanity in certain groups of people. And so for him, that was just like killing an animal that was down. It had literally no effect on him whatsoever. And when you watched him in court, the only thing that got a rise out of him was when he got sentenced to 22.5 years in prison. Up to that point, he had shown no, because in his mind somewhere, I believe
think he should get any.
He believed he was going to get off.
Yeah.
At some point,
yeah.
He did not really believe that he would go to prison.
Right.
So I know that we have so much to talk about on this Black Lives Matter movement.
And we can talk for days.
Yes, we can. But this is another topic that we can pick up on a different show. But I really do want us to talk about our Black fathers, because that is so critical to our communities. Yeah. We have a poem right now that's going to come up called The Good Father.
Please welcome a friend of the show, Prentice Powell.
Arsenio, I'm tired of us always having to prove our love to our sons. One of the biggest compliments I get a lot of times is how great of a father I am. You see pictures on the internet. People compliment you a lot because they see photos. And honestly, sometimes I want to tell people, don't tell me I'm a good father when you don't know anything about me. Fun-loving daddy and son pictures on a Facebook page do not equate to instilling values into your child's development. And the fact that I'm Black should be irrelevant when it comes to my ability to raise my son. My skin tone should not make me any better or worse when it comes to the paternal instinct. But because fathers like me are apparently extinct, I get extra praise. And for what? For doing what I'm supposed to do. From strangers. Strangers who don't know, when my son was born, I only got him from 12 noon on Saturdays to 5 p.m. on Sundays, went to the court to get more time, came back with 12 noon on Saturdays to 5 p.m. on Sundays, plus child support, fought for a year, had him for a year and a half, if not more, had him 50% of the time, if not more, only to lose him when he started school to summertime and rotating holidays. So when you see me in the streets with my little one and want to say, it's so good seeing the father doing his job, spending that quality time, don't, because I am being robbed. Robbed of the greatest gift. Forced to live through pictures on an iPhone to recognize the touch of my lips more than they do my fingertips. And the smell of his lotion every day I rub into my skin, so when I smell myself, I think of him. Forced to live through memories that occur within the span of 1 week. Through occasional webcam chats with a child too young to speak back, so when he reaches for you through that camera, all you can say is, son, I miss you too. Or watching your son learn how to ride a bike via Skype at the hands of another man, and even though he is a good man and you are glad he's around, that man is not you. And not letting his mother know that all this is getting to you, so you get up to grab some tissue, because at all times, that distance of 3,117.4 miles can feel more like 3 million. Try dropping your son off at the airport with 3 teeth in his mouth, go 4 weeks without him, watch him come back with 5, and see if you don't beat yourself up for not being around during that time. So don't tell me I'm a good father when you don't know anything about me. Try to convince a person that knows nothing about you that you are simply worthy of time. See thousands of people inspired by your story, but still feel that you are getting nowhere. Have people motivated by the pain that sits right here every day inside of your chest, and that same pain being a reflection of the amount of love that you possess. I want you to imagine your newborn baby sleep. You're watching them. Try to get his sleep patterns down pat, praying to God you get it right, because you have one night and have to go 6 days until you get him back. Imagine being able to fly through this world, doing what you love to do, but because of a court order, your son before the age of 1 has to fly twice a month, which may mean by the age of 2, he'll have more frequent flyer miles than you. Try never spending a day in your life locked up in prison and still watch your child grow up primarily through photos. Learn about his milestones via text message or Facebook and see if you don't feel numb. So how can I smile when people tell me I'm such a good father when I feel like I'm not giving enough time to actually be one? Raise your son without feeling like you're actually raising him. And although everything in this world doesn't go the way we plan, I can accept that. All that's fine. I just don't understand how a man can be forced to pay half of daycare, half of medical expenses, food, clothes, water, but the same man that laid down to create that child is not automatically given half of the time. Something about that situation is not right. And when I'm done with this poem, I mean this. I don't care if any of you clap. I just want my praise, my kudos, my air, my earth, my water, my drive, my moon, my sun, my baby, my motivation, my son. I just want my chance. I just want my son, Justice Prentice Powell. I want my baby back. Thank you.
I love that poem, and it made me think about you, because I've watched you raise your kids from the crib. And so just tell us about that journey, what that's like, and how people, like in the poem, think that you are the exception when really there are a lot of Black fathers out there doing what they're supposed to do.
You know, my smaller children, when they were in, I guess maybe first or second grade, something like that, in their elementary school, I was the only face that the school saw. They didn't see their mother because she had taken, I guess you could say, a sabbatical.
From being a mother.
And so it happened, and so I had to step up. And I don't say that to bash her in any way. I say that simply to state facts, as far as it was all on me. And by all on me, I mean all on me as women say all on me. I had no help from the other half. And my support circle, if you can even call it that, was minimal at best. So just like this man, I can relate to everything that he said. Unfortunately and sadly, I can relate to everything that he said, because it is a shame that they can give us half of the fiduciary responsibility, but they won't give us half of the time. They don't split the time like they split the money. When I was younger, and my oldest daughter, that's when I just had one. My oldest daughter, I had just recently lost my job, and her mother and I split. We split up. And it was again after I lost my job that her mother put me on child support. So I go to the courthouse, for that day, and I tell the judge that I'm not working, and the judge then, a Caucasian lady, she says, well, you are an able-bodied man. You should be able to make this much. So they charged me 25% of what they thought I was supposed to make or supposed to be able to make for child support. Now, mind you, I'm not making anything right now because I just lost my job. So I'm immediately behind the 8 ball. And it only gets worse from there because I can't tell you how many times my license was suspended because of child support. And of course, after a certain time, I became a CDL driver. So therefore, my license was key in me even working. And it's a catch-22, but a monkey's paw catch-22. So you're out here working, but then they suspend your license because now mind you, I set up to where I had the payments were supposed to come out of my check, strictly come out of, because sight unseen, you don't miss what you don't see, right? So the payments were supposed to come out of my check, but somewhere in the child support universe, somebody dropped the ball and I guess didn't hit a 1 or didn't hit a 0 or just didn't hit enter, and those payments weren't coming out of my check, unbeknownst to me. So imagine, as a CDL driver, your employer calls you in and says, is there something you need to tell me? And of course your face frowns.
Because you don't know what he's talking about.
Exactly. I'm like, is there? Because nothing that I can think of. It says here your license is suspended. And you're like, what? My license shouldn't be suspended. And then they tell you why your license is suspended. And that's 2 shocks. 1, that your license is suspended. 2, why it's suspended. Because in your mind, these payments are supposed to be coming out timely, and everything should be handled, but it hasn't been. At no fault of your own, but it hasn't been. So you get your license suspended. They tell you, well, we can't keep you on, because of course you have, as a commercial driver, you have
to have a valid license.
Bing, 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 bing. So.
And now you go back to the court, and they don't like you. No way.
They don't like you, and they're not trying to hear anything that you have to say.
No help in sight.
No help in sight. And in Georgia, and this is something that I think that we're still fighting for. Fathers don't have rights. We don't have onset rights, I should say. We have fiduciary rights that they place upon us, but we don't have any rights as far as time, attention, or we simply can't determine when we see the child or even whether we see the child. So
even if you're doing your part and doing all that you can, if you're not documenting every single step of the way, you have no get back. with the court system.
And even when you are documenting everything, you still have to go in and prove, because you are guilty until proven innocent. It's not innocent. It's not innocent until proven guilty. It's guilty until proven innocent, because again, they don't want to hear what you have to say. So I'm at my children's elementary school, and they're doing I think it was NBC, channel 11 here in Georgia. They were
We
coming
need another hour for this topic. This is a really good
Yes,
topic.
and they were coming to the school to interview Black fathers, and the principal asked me personally to do the interview. And in my interview, I said that they look at us Black fathers as unicorns. By that I mean they look at us as mythical beings, things that don't exist. Black fathers, no, that can't be. There's no such thing. You know, it's like unicorns. There's no such thing. You know, that's a myth. That's fantasy. And that's what we're dealing with right now. And I think not just in Georgia, but across the country.
I think that this is a topic that we definitely have to visit again. And we'd like to thank all of our viewers for joining us today. We thank you for being a part of Perspectives. And we'd like to tell you we have a Facebook page called Perspectives with Kevin and Evelyn. And also you can find us on YouTube. So please hang out with us, subscribe, join us, like us, all of those things. But most of all, share us with your friends and come back. We're here every second and fourth Wednesday, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yes. And as always, guys, we look forward to hearing your perspective. So
Absolutely.
join us again.
Absolutely.
You know, many times people ask me, why was education so important to Mary McLeod Bethune, having grown up during the time period that she did in the Deep South, in a very small town? Why did it mean something to her to read and write when everybody else around her, nobody else was educated? So, you know, what did that mean to her? And it all started in terms of her desire to just be a different kind of person. When Mary McLeod Bethune was born, as I've stated, she was born during emancipation, after the freeing of the slaves. And the energy at that time was moving into Reconstruction. And so even though people were sharecropping, they wanted better for their children. My grandmother had to go to work with her mom every day. And so when she would go, there were the plantation, the sharecropping guy, owner of plantation that she worked on, the owner had children. And so her mother, my great-grandmother, Patsy, was helping to raise the owner's children. And so when Mary would go to work with her, she interacted with these kids. And in that interaction, one day, you know, she was there, she picked up a book and was going through it. And one of the other children, white kid, snatched the book from her, told her, put that book down. Niggas don't need to learn how to read. Niggas don't know how to read. And she said that had such a profound impact on her. She said she felt it in her spirit, that kind of negative energy, that kind of determination to keep something from her must mean that she needed to know more about that. And so she said from that moment, she had such a strong desire to be educated, to learn how to read, to know how to write and to do math, you know, to just have that education, that she prayed about it. She prayed about it so hard, she felt that God sent missionaries there to that area to start a school for her. And when this white Protestant missionary came to the fields and asked for a child to be able to attend school, her parents didn't hesitate because they knew that she was the one. And they expressed that there was something different about her. She had different tastes, different conversations, and they knew that she was the one who should get that education. And so they sent her to school. Instead of going to pick cotton every day, her job was to go to school. And she would bring that information back and share it. She was the teacher at a very young age of people a lot older than her, but they wanted to learn too because they valued education. They knew that there was something powerful in being able to read and write and have an understanding. And so those were the kinds of things that she was able to bring back to her community from being a very young child, to the point that her dad, my great-grandfather, would take her with him when they would go to the marketplace because she was the only one in the community that could count. And so they would take her, sit her up on the counter when they took the crops, and she would count. She kept them from being cheated, black and white farmers who were sharecropping, because the white farmers couldn't count either. At that time, poor white people were not any better off than poor black people. They felt like they were because they were white, and of course white privilege told them that they were better than the black people, but they were all in the same boat and they were getting cheated too. And as a young child, she helped everybody to be able to get treated fairly. And that grew with her as she got older. That desire was even stronger. And when the opportunity came where she could go away to school, she went and learned even more. And then she went to missionary school with a desire to go to Africa to be a missionary, only to be told upon completion of her studies that they weren't letting black people go to Africa as missionaries. Can you imagine? You're black, but you can't go to Africa, even though that's where they stole you from. To be a missionary, because they felt only white missionaries had any value. But that was because of another dynamic that we can talk about at another point in time. But the racism that she had to endure to get an education. She went to great lengths to be able to share her knowledge, and starting a school, teaching at other schools, doing missionary work, going into the prisons, were all things that she did in order to share knowledge. Bethune-Cookman was started in 1904, and it still stands today as a place of higher learning and shared knowledge. And it's all there because of Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune.